that's what I noticed between the beginning and 6, 7, 8 tracks later.
Today we have here Nagilum. He's one of our students, and he will be releasing on the next Dacru Uncharted. And let's start with your artist project. So what kind of like fascinates you about music? What's the style you want to transmit with your music? Yeah.
It goes back a couple of years when I first thought about making music that I like, that includes the elements that I find really engaging in the music when I hear it. And for me, it is a journey that started, and I like especially full on and progressive. And from that perspective, those are the styles that I focused on. Although I must say the release that will come out will be a full-on release.
How did you feel with the release? I mean, it's a big milestone. I mean, it's one of many in your journey, but it's the first one, and I think it's the most important one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the first is probably the biggest, because it takes a lot of time to get there, and especially if you don't have a path to follow. And so I'm actually very happy that with the first release now, I have a track together that is really the outcome of a lot of dedication and effort over the last couple of months to get to this point. So I'm really excited about that. I'm actually looking forward to see what the reception will be. And I managed to get a lot of elements into the track that I really like, and the sound, tried to do a good sound selection around the elements that I felt really move me and probably also the listeners.
Nice. Yeah, I'm also really excited how this release will be. Because actually there's like 3 of the students in there. So we have kind of like a family in there. So that's really amazing. What was before you joined the course, just to get into that as well? So what was your frustrations, or what was the point of decision where you said, okay, I'm going to do this?
It started with me trying to learn what is needed to make a track. There is too much information out there, which for me meant that I was looking in too many directions at the same time, and at the end I got nothing done. In addition to that, it was also around the basics, so getting familiar with the DAW that you're going to use. That was a big step to take. And first, I even thought about doing it on hardware, but that kind of that stopped for me rather soon. So I focused on the DAW rather quickly. I noticed that first it is important to learn about the DAW before going actually into the content of the track. And so that's kind of like the struggle that I had in the beginning, because the program is complicated if you don't know it, and also working with it. There are a lot of settings in it that are not obvious for someone that has not produced before. Those are some of the challenges I experienced.
Information overflow. The DAW is a monster. It has so many, I mean, I am learning still new things every day, because actually that's the interesting thing with the course. I get so many questions from you guys that I always need to check some things on my own. I thought, okay, I never did that. And then I need to look into the manual, and there's so many things, and it's crazy. But I think you get used to over time, and especially also the shortcuts and everything. And then you get like kind of like a faster workflow. If we talk about a workflow, what changed in your workflow? I mean, during the whole process?
I took more a view of doing the track first end to end, and then have something that is complete, rather than spending an enormous amount of time on some individual components from the start. So making sure that the kick and bass, the drums, the lead elements, the sound selection, the arrangement, that I go through that process from start to end. That is actually what changed, because before I tried to do the kick perfect and tried to dive into the sound design of it and then got lost in it. And so I actually never never got to the point to have from start to finish a whole track, with including the arrangement. That is now different in my workflow. And the other thing that changed was the approach that we have in the course regarding the creativity to combine the different sound elements in the lead selection. That helped me a lot to go over the lead creation part and the melodies all the way into the arrangement part. That's also what changed my workflow.
To explain it a bit for the guys who don't know this kind of like workflow, so we do like a lot of preparation before, like a big brainstorm of elements, and we try like the MIDI on different elements and see what is kind of like possible before we start arranging the track. And that kind of like helps you to not get stuck and into this kind of like mode where you write the track until a certain point and then you run out of ideas and you're completely like lost. So I think that's a really good workflow we are using there.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that I've done the track from start to finish, plus I'm working on a new one as well, I also noticed that the approach gave me enough material, even at the end, to still go back and maybe switch out sound elements from the track. Before, what I noticed, it's also a problem when I ran out of sound elements and I had to go back and recreate something while I was still much further in the track arrangement already. So having enough of these sound elements is something that I also noticed in the workflow is very helpful.
Yeah, it's a little bit like cooking and you have all the ingredients there, or you're cooking and then in the middle of cooking you need to go to the supermarket and buy something and go back and go again and go back. And it's so much easier, I think, if you have everything prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. The trip to the supermarket you want to avoid.
What was the most surprising thing for you during the course? Was there anything which you didn't expect at all?
I thought that I had to do a lot on MIDI and less on samples. But I noticed that you can really get very far with using samples for different parts in the track, either within the drums or within the kick and bass or within the FX channels. There is a lot of room to use good samples, as long as you apply them in a good way. It doesn't have to be all the time around creating everything in MIDI or even go deep into sound design, at least at the start.
I also always see like a pyramid. There's kind of like different things which are more important, like the arrangement is kind of like the most important, the story, and then like the lead elements, like the melodies and the main rhythms. Yeah, you don't need to make like every riser and everything on your own. And it's kind of like if you're writing a book, there's the words all exist, but there's a million books out there. And I see the same for samples. And too many people kind of like say they don't want to use samples because then I will sound like everyone else. And that is, in my opinion, completely bullshit, because there's so many samples. And still, even if you're using samples, you're not only using samples, so you're combining them with your own material, and that gives you even more combinations. And there is no way that two tracks will sound the same, even if they share a few samples. So yeah, that's definitely something which a lot of people, in my opinion, to be a bit more open about using different things and just like, yeah, not growing their own ingredients if we go to the meal again, but like shopping some ingredients and then still making their own meal with it.
Some of the cases are also, I notice when working on a track, not always about the main track elements. Oftentimes, samples are also great to just fill the frequency space, to have something that either plays in the background, which is hardly audible, but makes more maybe mid-low space in the frequency range, or just give something to the track that makes it feel more fuller, more flowing, more broad.
Yeah, also like all this like little effects, they give a lot of vibe, and you couldn't be doing that only with like synthesizers. So there's also like different textures and timbres to them. So it actually increases the variety in the track.
Yeah, and I guess every producer has his own workflow, but for me, I see the end. When I start, I know where we end up or where I want to end up, and for me, it was very important to feel comfortable that I understand from start to finish how to make the track, because I think you will have to make a lot of tracks in order to reach a certain level. And I didn't want to struggle too long through, one track. I really wanted to feel like I know what it takes to go from zero till the end. And then once I've seen that, I can recycle, repeat that process, that workflow for myself. And through that also get better and improve it and learn from it. I always felt like I tried before the program actually to do too much, too far into the detail, and then at the end, I didn't get the track done.
Yeah, I think a lot of producers have this like 80% tracks or 16 bars loop collection on their computer, which never are like finished tracks. They have like millions of good loops, but yeah, it's actually a different thing to tell a whole story and make something complete. What other learnings you had like during the whole course and process?
I learned a lot from it, because one was to see what it takes to go from the beginning to the end of the track, but also that it's not the process that I could complete like in a short amount of time. So it took me several months to get to the finished track. And what I noticed is that if you spend every week or every day or every 2 weeks, whatever the rhythm is, that consistency is important. Some kind of rhythm in which you work, in which you can do and progress the track you're working on. That has been, I think, one of the more important learnings for me, to get to the stage where I'm at now.
I think that's the most important thing, that you keep a consistent pace which you can keep up, and it doesn't matter if it's like just an hour or something a day or an hour a week, but the important thing is that you do it continuously. And I have seen you like doing the homework every week. You have been to all the Zoom meetings, and in the end it paid off. So you have been the first one from the course actually who is releasing at a label. So in the end it's just about that, basically being consistent, showing up, and then you're ahead of like 99% of the people already.
Yeah, exactly, because I wanted to really come to the point to make a track. Without that commitment or the consistency, I wouldn't have been able to do that. There are too many curves and obstacles that can happen that just derail you from that path. And what I noticed with the consistency comes the feeling that you feel you're in control of the track. You know where you are at on it. You know where everything is. It doesn't feel like, oh, I haven't opened this for a while. I don't know where, where my sounds were that I worked on last. More often you work with it, the more automated it becomes with the shortcuts, with how to do all the settings in it. So there are a lot of, benefits from that side as well. It just makes you feel like, okay, I know really the program, and the program isn't the obstacle. It's more, it becomes really like a tool that you use to make the track, rather than, the big thing you need to figure out in order to do something with it.
Yeah, I think also those skills kind of like compound all the things like you have, like the knowing how to use the DAW, like the ear training you have over time, the knowledge you have, the experiences you make so that you know what to do when, and all those things kind of like they stack up on top of each other, and it becomes a little bit like an exponential thing, in my opinion. You become faster and faster at creating tracks.
Absolutely. One of the other things that that helped me also, like you mentioned, the ear training, and with the ear training there are routine or things that I just do in order to try to listen for the right keys of the samples, the sound selection, that this is in the right key. It is difficult for me for whatever reason. So it's a long learning process. And I'm actually happy because I also found a couple of tools that help me, for example, see what's now the key of the sound. And then if I want to transpose it, I know from that, tools, how many semitones up and down based on the root distance it is, or note distance, and things like that. I found for myself to help me go over some of the more difficult parts in the workflow that I encountered.
If you go back to before you started and you listen your old tracks, what do you notice in comparison to the track you have now?
Yeah, a big difference, a very big difference. I mean, it feels like, I think before this release now, there were, I would say, at least 7 or 8 tracks that I had done before. There's always something that improved from one to the next track. I think I would say in the first track it was like, oh, what a horrible bass line, and then didn't hear any clicks happening, and all of a sudden in the next track that was gone because I actually started to hear the clicks or started to hear that the bass line needed to be changed. Then again, I would say between the second and third track, then, for example, it was about the drums. All of a sudden, all the drum selection with regards to the closed hi-hat, the open hi-hat, became much more easy to hear the different tone colors, the different sounds that these elements in the drums should make. And that again changed from one track to another. It never happened to me that within the track I all of a sudden realized this, but it was more like between tracks that I really noticed, hey, kick and bass is different now, drums have improved, and the same also with the leads and with the effects. I always noticed an improvement or a change in the style of, for example, the tension, or like the parts between the bar changes. That, for example, in the beginning were very basic, where I had maybe 1-2 elements to do a transition. Now I have like a reverse synth, I have maybe a drum fill, I have maybe 2-3 other sound elements that I do within the transition on the bar. And in the beginning that wasn't the case. So the transition of the bars of the first tracks are much more simple. But back then it was already, a big achievement to do that. Yeah, and also with the FX channels, I think if in the first tracks I had, let's say 20 different sound effects, now I probably have like 60 or 70 different to really make sure that I'm not like repeating a sound, or that I can create a certain theme, because in the beginning it was all around get from the start till the end, and that's what I feel also to hear in the first tracks. But once you do a little bit more, at least for me, I noticed that I can focus a little bit more, not totally yet, but a little bit more on the theme, to say like what should be the theme of the track. Maybe there are a few sound elements that I really like, and around that I pick more sound elements. And in the beginning, that big picture I didn't have. I just saw the transition. I saw the kick and bass, the drums to do the sound, the leads and the melodies. That's what I noticed between the beginning and 6, 7, 8 tracks later.
Yeah, actually, I remember one homework from you where I thought all the transitions you copied around like every transition to the next.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it became way better. I mean, I heard the last track you have now in the Discord, and it really improved a lot. I can, if you don't mind, I can play maybe a snippet from before and after if you want. Like, I can cut it into the video.
Yeah. Please. Because I also remember we did that with the kick and bass before and after before the program start and after the first few modules. I think that's really good if you put it next to each other to hear the noticeable difference.
Yeah, that's it. And it is a big difference. I heard it before. What are your plans now? What's your vision with your project, where you want to go? What's your next big goal, as you have achieved now the first one, the release?
I would like to build on that. I like to do more. I like to do more of those releases to the label and also see if there is a response by the listeners or by the folks that play the track. I talked to someone who actually already played it at a venue, and I want to continue that. I want to focus now making the next release even a little bit more advanced than the one that I just did. And just keep building that. Ideally, the big end goal that I have is to have enough tracks produced myself to be able to set up like a live act. I think with maybe 10, 15 release tracks, I can get to that point of having enough material for a live act. And that's for me the next big or actually it's not the next one, because the next one for me is actually do more with the label, but then after that come to the point where I have 10, 15 tracks to work with in order to make a live act at the venue, at the festival. That would be a really good point to get to.
Yeah, it's a good goal. And yeah, definitely. I mean, 15 tracks is like 1.5 hour set, and 10 like a shorter one, like maybe like an hour. So that's a good plan, and we will reach that. So because now the foot is in the door, and actually you had to wait really long. So people don't know, but we submitted your track, I think, in November to the guy from the label, and he was collecting the tracks already for now, and now we have June. So usually it's like you submit a track and it's like a month later out. So I do remember you were already asking in between, is it really coming out? And hopefully it will be like now, I think they planned it for like July or August. So then we'll be finally out, almost like a year later. But I mean, it's not about time. It's about it's about making the start and then continuing it. Going on is the most important thing then, and hitting the next one and building up on that, because it will also take a bit of time to build an audience and as you said, to build a list for your set of tracks. But definitely, I completely see it with you, because I see you have the dedication and you put the work in, and that's the most important thing.
Yes, good that you say that, because I also noticed that between the track that is going to be released now and the let's say the track thereafter, I actually was able to do the next track in almost half the time, at least got to the same point in half the time than before. And I noticed that a lot of times it helps to put things like together, like, channel wise, you also explained, have like a little bit of a repository from previous work, sound elements, brainstorm material that can help also to plug and play into the next track to help become faster with certain things in the track creation or in the workflow. For me, it's fine. Like you said, it's okay if it takes some time, because now I'm almost, hopefully, towards the end phase of the second track. So now actually I have something that is becoming ready in not like another 6 months, but way shorter than that. So I think that's also a benefit here.
Yeah, it goes faster and faster. So I remember it took me also like half a year or something for the first tracks to make them good. I mean, in the beginning, everybody does like tracks in 2-3 weeks, but they're not good. But then once you make a really good track, it takes you really long because there's a lot of like effort and detail in it. And then it becomes faster again. So it kind of like expands when you know what to do all in there. And then you become faster and faster with shortcuts and knowledge and like your own like templates, basically, which is also the idea of the course, to make like a blueprint for yourself, so that you have a project where you can look always into how it is mixed and take stuff out like the kick and bass and then just adapt it to a new key and all that. And then it goes so much faster. So for me, it's the same. Like now I'm can make a track like in 2 weeks to a month or something, but it took me also like 6 months, and it's so nice because you not only get faster, but you also get better at the same time, and then you have both kind of like combined.
Yeah, when I sit working on the track in the past, sometimes it was like, oh, where do I start? But now with the repetition and the continuous work on it, I can just sit down and I know where to go in and what to do, and it is also more automated now because I know how to do these things. In the beginning, I also had to go back into the videos and look up, certain techniques. If you know them because you have practiced them or have done them often enough, you can just go in and do them rather than starting from also learning it or relearning it or rewatching it. It's a big difference I noticed. And like I said, I can maybe I have a rhythm of every week coming up with a new, let's say, iteration of the track. And during the week, I focus several days in the week on making certain steps in the track forward. Because for me, that works best if I have, listen to something today, listen to it the next day again. If I give myself more like 2, 3, 4 days during the week to progress, to make certain changes into the bars or into whatever section of the track, then that's a good rhythm for me. And with that type of rhythm, I would say it took me about half a year now to get to quite a far stage in the next track. So it does take time. I hope that helps the listeners to compare, because if you can spend every day a lot of time on it, then obviously it goes that much faster. Everyone has to find his own rhythm, and I think that's also what I want to say from my experience. I noticed for myself I can't be everywhere. So I'm not like working on the track and watching 10 other videos on YouTube on sound design and participate in 3 other activities, because that, I noticed, just makes my time too little on everything. So what I had to really do for myself is, okay, I look at the feedback I get, and then I look at what I need to do in order to move the track forward. and I really focus on those things, and I do whatever I need to around it to help me do that. But it's very easy to try to be everywhere, and then at the end you're nowhere.
Yes, that's really important. That's a really good, actually, thing for the end. It was really nice to have you here. And I will also link to your profile in the description box below so that people can follow a bit your journey and maybe also ask you questions or whatever if they want to contact you somewhere on your social profiles.
Thank you.